You know, I do love me a really fancy Glock type of build. In fact, one of the rarities that I do know more often is the agency side. For example, I have my personal one here, which is a Tokyo Marui Glock 17 with the RWA Agency Slide that we've seen here. Now, I have to admit, when I was doing the review for the Sig Sauer 320, I started liking the pistol a lot more often and got my own. In fact, here it is. Now, after a certain amount of time playing with it, it got boring. It got very simple. So I wanted to do something that would be more interesting. I wanted the lacerations and exaggerations that we would see from Agency, but in a 320 build. I don't think we have to think about that too much, as we're going to do a review on the slide from the Peacekeeper side and talking about my personal build, what I've done from making from this guy to something like this. Today we'll be talking about my personal build and at the same time a review of the Agency Peacekeeper and my 320 in a PDW form. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Airsoft Master. And today we're going to have something special to share out, which I have in mind and do a review on, is the Agency 320 Peacekeeper build on a MP17 Flux kit. This is a very unique system, so we'll do like a review on the stuff that we see here, and at the same time talk about my internal builds. But before we do anything like that, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and comment down below if you have a 320, what are some things you want to see out there? Or what is your type of builds? Drop it down in the comments. And if you're looking for products like these, like the Agency Slide, do check us out at airsoftmaster.com. But for now, let's go ahead and do the review. So when I did the review on the M17 and the M18, I have to admit, it was a very good pistol. In fact, it's the same type of pistol that I was using to qual for my pistol qualification when I was in the Marine Corps. And it was a very good pistol. Like, I'm talking about a very good system that was able to keep on sight and it was easy on the trigger. Instead of a typical Beretta where you keep pulling and don't know when it's going to go off and then it went off. Well, at least with the M18, I was able to be more prepared, as the airsoft version was more modular, as the same thing as you would like the real firearm. Fire control unit can be easily pulled out, swapped to different frames, and there led to many different types of aftermarket parts, barrels, compensators, even different types of triggers once the production kept going down the road. In fact, I never expected to do that, as like the same thing we would expect from an older versions of what we've seen is the Glock. But the 320 came out of nowhere with more aftermarket parts. As I started off with, in fact, was a black M17. Down the road, I was able to get my hands on, thanks to my friend Justin, a X-Carry frame. And it was a very comfortable and very nice setup. But down the road again, it got really boring, got bland. It's the same thing what we expected. You know, yes, we can always do attachment parts, but again, it still is an M17. I wanted something more exaggerated and something more wow, like I would have from my Tokyo Marui Glock, which I didn't have to look no further, as when Redwolf Airsoft brought out the Peacekeeper slides, specifically for the 320. It is a very nice cut. So why don't we work our way from both of my builds to ending up working with from the front of the slide to the back end, and also other parts I did for the internals on this specific build, and work our way down there. Starting off with, we do have is the compensator that's in here, that's built with a T6 aluminum construction CNC cut. Underneath that helps out is a steel outer barrel that was helped basically with the same threads as 14mm negative to help put on and attach to the compensator. A little pro tip though is to help keep it corrected while it keeps twisting all the way around to keep it nice and tight. You do have his 1.5mm metric screws to put in to help align and adjust your screws to keep the compensator nice and straight alongside with the slide. Again, a very nice touch. Meanwhile, while we talk about the barrel and all the way through, let's go ahead and talk about the slide. One reason why I do like this is, again, the laceration is what we expected from Agency. Mainly, we're able to do a top rack because of the lacerations from the top and the front of it with a nice hybrid cut what we expect to see all the way through on the other side of the barrel for exhaust if it was a real steel. We also have the same type of lacerations on the back end for a dual rear rack if we were to use it in the same pistol form. Right now I have it in the Flux PDW system. So either way, it's a very good and a nice stylish setup. Mainly one reason why I kind of like this too is this is pretty much close to flush with the Flux conversion kit. Now if I had the original slide on here, again, my OCD started throwing me off because then we end up with a little bit of more like this weird divot down to the frame. It just threw me off. So the Flux with the actual Agency Peacekeeper kit made it more subtle and again, for some reason, a very good aggressive style. What I also do like in between the slide is the fact that you end up with is suppressor sights going from the front and rear. And that does help out if, say for example, if I don't want to use the compensator, I can swap it out to a normal suppressor in there and still have target recreations if I needed to when I go into the pistol format. As for the lower for the Flux, I got this surprisingly from also my friend again to help build this setup when we were trying to do our 320 builds. And the Flux came in at a really perfect time. In fact, with this one, what I did was nothing. Just put it on here with the FCU fire control unit alongside on the Flux version, but the Pro Arms trigger. Again, it's a nice little aggressiveness that we would need instead of me just swapping in between the Agency trigger from pistol form to the Flux conversion kit. It's a lot easier to work with too, and it does have a tunable grub screw to help adjust the trigger pull to whatever your preference would be. As for the inner barrel, I did use is a normal type of Lilacs bucking inside and at the same time using a 603 9-ball inner barrel as a 97mm, the same thing equivalent to the Glock 17 or a 4.3 high Kappa. To give me that better, more groupings and alongside somewhat of a range. Yet its perfect length is right at the end of the outer barrel. But if you're wondering where I did put the trigger for the Agency that does come with it, I ended up putting it on the other 320 build. I mean, when you have enough parts, you're able to do and end up another crazy setup, which for me, if I wanted to do the pistol conversion, this is where it would end up going on here. And if you're wondering, Mike, why do you have 2 or more mounts when you already have one on the Flux at the same time it's already on your pistol? Again, redundancy does help out a lot. Again, if I wanted to swap it out from PDW form to the pistol form, I'm able to do so and put it on. The only drawback I do have for the Agency Slide is the fact that it uses 1.5mm grub screws, which is kind of hard to find when you're trying to put this on your red dot mount. Again, you can't get them other ways like such as hardware stores to help out, or maybe that does come with a kit, but I just wish they did come with them. But either way, beggars can't be choosers, and we can move on to the next build whenever we have that chance. But for now, it's nice to have it just in case when I do have it, I'm able to pop in between either red dots. For now, what I do have on top of the Flux is a nice Strike Industries cage mount, which on top is a nice replica of the Hollow Sun red dot system in here. Again, it's a very unique setup for the build and making it more, I don't know why, it just seems so subtle instead of just having the arm art right on top of it. Unfortunately, guys, this is the older version of the Flux, or a little bit off on the specs, because in the real Flux, it does have is the Picatinny slot to go right on top to be able to put whatever red optic you want on there, red dot, such as maybe an EOTech or a T1. But for now, I do have is the RMR ready to go. You can do some certain modifications by drilling into the plate and be able to screw on, if you want to, the Picatinny rail segment by just filing it down and do some modifications. It can be done as I've seen. Now, when it comes to the trigger pull between the two on the Pro Arms or the Agency, you will end up with a very nice break in between both of them. In fact, the wall is a lot more easier to get closer with less slack in comparison to the stock build. In fact, you can do it with a lot of ease. The same thing can be said about the Pro Arms trigger on here on the Flux kit. No wall, straight, slack, no slack. So now we get into it. Boom, right there. One more time. Straight to the wall, which is pretty aggressive, I have to admit. So I'm able to put down shots more on range with being the best fast response on here. Now, on the back end of the Flux, you do see on here on the other side, I do have is a QD sling mount on the back end of it. So just in case if I wanted to attach anything and use a sling, it is possible. On the other side though, for the controls, I do have this lever here. This is to help release the stock when it's spring operated and compressed down on the PW brace. For example, push this down, ends up extending the brace, and now it's ready to go. The Flux kit, I have to admit, is very nice as it's a very stable system to hold and carry like a normal SMG. But you do have as a pistol form where it is very compressed and easy to conceal if need be. So this would be a very nice setup for those CQB quarters such as like Tag City, and one you do have is a stability out here. At the same time, you can still put it back in pistol form. The benefit, what I do like about the 320s is, say for example, if I'm not using the conversion kit of the Flux, I can do is pull this guy out, slide this forward, take my original pistol form, slide it back, and now we end up what would we recommend for the agency is a nice X carry and more like of a 3-gun competition and nice setup for your 6-hour. Again, good job on that, Redwolf, with the agency build. Now that we already talked about the internals, let's talk about the difference between a stock and to the upgraded recoil spring. With the trigger help adjustments on here, you are able to basically notice the response is a lot faster and on the cycle. Why don't we do a test? So here we are with a 320 magazine. Just gonna fill it up. And let's see how it sounds with a stock M17. It's not bad, it's pretty fast. But what would happen with the Redwolf style version with the recoil spring that comes from the agency build? Let's find out. All right. Here we go. Now, it is a lot more aggressive, and I do have to admit this actual stiffer spring from the agency does help out with a faster cycle. It is a lot more aggressive too from the sound between the compensator and the steel outer barrel. It's a nice touch which can be seen. Another benefit that I do like about the Flux conversion kit, which is most likely can be seen overseas, is you do have a ready mag in the front on standby just in case you do run out for a quicker reload. More of a quicker reload and the tack reload as well. All we have to do, release the magazine like a pistol grip, pull out the mag, swap it in, and you are ready to go. The only thing I will say is you might want to be careful with is when reloading without a mag well, you might have a tendency to pinch your skin when reloading each base plate. And I gotta admit, that did hurt. But you can be ready on the fly, as also it is not a grip, but you do have a nice sturdy setup for it. Again, a nice little benefits from we've seen on the Flux conversion. I'm using 0.20 gram BBs and Jag Precision Race Gas alongside the 97mm inner barrel with a 603 type bore. Pretty consistent. So while chronoing with my upgraded build, one thing I did notice, I'm looking at around the average around the 314 to 330 FPS. Nice setup for mainly the indoor CQB fields such as N1 or Tag City, and it's able to pass. but I do have the range just in case if I needed to. If I wanted to make it a little bit more range distance for outdoors, I can just swap out the inner barrel for a lot longer and then maybe add a suppressor instead. Again, it's a very nice setup to swap in between. So other than the complete build, let's go ahead and move on back to the subject is what do you get alongside the Peacekeeper slide set? Well, for example, not only you do get the compensator that's built really like a lightweight CNC aluminum, you also have is the steel outer barrel. And alongside that with the front and rear sights of the suppressor to help make it more easier to see and get a faster requisition. At the same time, what we do have is different types of arm mounts out there. Say for example, if you don't want to put the rear arm arm mount, you can change it to a front sight with an arm bar in the back. Or say for example, you don't want the arm bar in general, you can swap it out to a clean plate. Your choice of your opinions of what you want. If you want to put it for a Flux kit, you can. If you want to rock it as a pistol with an arm bar, you can do so just by changing it to your preference. Again, this is what I do like about agency builds, is giving you that type of options you want to make your unique agency Peacekeeper slides and builds. Now, when we talk about unique type of builds, this does take it in the spectrum. I mean, we're taking an original 320 M17 or M18 and converting it to a elite thing that we've seen from the company from Agency. It's something that we don't see often, and the rarity does make it a lot. And for me, it was a well worth wait, even though yes, you do have to get it overseas. The Flux conversion kit brings it up to a whole nother level where I have to admit it does make it a lot fun to use. Now, unfortunately, it is hard to get and it does take a long time to get the conversion kit. But one thing that doesn't really have to be such a hard time is the Peacekeeper slide. The Peacekeeper slide can be purchased through our website. The only drawback is with that one is the price cost for the slide is at $425. That is a steep conversion kit for a pistol. But you do get well worth of the craftsmanship of what we've seen from the compensator to the slide and even the trigger that does come with it. The agency to show the hard flex that you do get with the insignia on the barrel, the arm mount, even on the compensator, just to show that you are above a top tier class. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is a pistol. So, but other than that, again, it's your own opinion. So what do you guys think about the MP17 Flux with my Agency Peacekeeper kit? Is this something that you would like to see often? And let's be honest, would you like to see this become more into the US? Don't forget to comment, and if you're looking for products like these, do check us out at airsoftmaster.com. But for this episode, my name's Mike. Have yourself a good one, guys.
This video is brought to you by Airsoft Master.